We are live.
We are live. Hi there, everyone. This is Micah. I'm joined again by Dawn Nordby, Access Consciousness Certified Facilitator. And today we are going to talk about a really cool subject. It's energy pools. If energy pools are something that's in the Access Foundation class, but if you haven't taken a foundation class, you may have still heard of these energy pools. And maybe you've even done one yourself in a class or in a group from another facilitator. So we'd like to discuss more about what they are, the ways to maximize an energy pool, maybe ways that you may think you're doing one, hence the word think, as opposed to actually being the energy pool. So I'm just going to let Dawn take it away so we can discuss this topic and see what contribution it can be for all of you here listening and watching.
Well, go ahead and jump in at any time. And I just realized that I'm not sure where my camera is. So if if it's like I'm not looking at you, tell me and say, look the other way, Dawn. But yeah, jump in with questions if there's something that I'm skipping over or whatever. So
yes.
Yeah, energy pulls are something that, like as Micah said, they're in the foundation. And you see a lot of different facilitators do a lot of classes, especially you'll hear that they're doing energy pulls for money is another one, or energy pulls.
That's a big one.
Yeah, those seem to be the most popular. And basically, there's flows of energy that we're all aware of, because like you're aware of like the stereotypical car salesman who comes out at you and it feels like he's hitting you with a hammer, or that person that's always coming at you, pushing. That's somebody that's pushing energy. And our natural tendency when somebody's pushing at us is to put up a barrier. And that's part of the foundation, is where they talk about how to handle the different flows that come at you. Another one that people probably may have noticed is where somebody is on neutral and you're trying to get something from them, and it's kind of like talking to the wall. Mm-hmm. Only you don't expect a wall to do anything, so it's easier to talk to the wall. Well, that's just because, you kind of like when you're talking to people, it's easier to talk to people that are engaging with you. When someone's just sitting back, they're like, wait and see, you start to get that feeling of like, what do I need to do? You need to do something, and that's where the energy pulls do come in. And then you find that people that when they're talking, you literally want to lean into them because you want more. And those are people who are actually pulling energy from you, because pulling energy actually feels really, really good when you're having your energy pulled. Unless they're sucking you dry, that's a different kind of energy pull. Because you also have that needy person who, and the needy sucker energy it's probably not a pure pull. It's more of a pushy pull, because it's the one where you feel drained afterwards, or you feel like they're like literally, and when I say that it feels like they're sucking you dry, you know exactly what I mean, because you've experienced it, even though it might be kind of hard to explain. But those are the different energy pulls that we don't necessarily cognitively acknowledge, but everybody has them, and everybody has a natural affinity for how they are. My natural, or maybe dominant, way of functioning most of my life has been as a pusher. Which isn't entirely true in certain situations. But a pusher would also be that person that like nag, that's somebody who's constantly pushing at you. So it's a totally different kind of thing. But anyway, when people are using the energy pulls in particular, that's something that Gary, where I first heard about it was before I took foundation, and it was in the book Magic, You Are It, Be It, and it talks about it. It's actually how Access started, was literally with an energy pull. Is he was pulling for what you can use an energy pull to get a car, for anything. And you hear this a lot in a lot of modalities. They talk about like your dream board, visualize it. Not the same thing, but there is a similar idea to it, is rather than saying, I want a red Porsche or a red Mazda, rather than saying exactly what car I want. With an energy pull, I might go at, okay, so I want a car that has power. When I push on the gas, I want it to go. I don't want it to go, oh, well, maybe, okay. Because you I want a car that when I push on the gas, I want it to go and I want to go fast. I love to go fast. I want a car that has substance, a heavy car. I don't like a real light car, because when I push on the gas and I'm going 80 miles an hour down the road, I don't want to feel like a gust of wind's going to blow me off course. So, just say, I also, so I want power, I want speed, I want strength, and I want it to make me feel sexy.
Cool. Did you
And
use an energy pull to get your car?
Yes, I did, to find the car that I was looking for, because I didn't, it was a case of, we had bought cars we had children, my husband, and so it was a while before. I drove the same van for, God, forever. And it was an interesting car. But while I was driving, it's because I didn't know what I wanted. I was looking around going, what do I want? And then one day I saw one, and then of course they were everywhere. And did know I preferred a shade of red, because well, I think my first car was I had a gray car. No, my first one was like forest green, and then I had a gray car, and then I had an orange car, and then I did get a red van, and that one was my favorite. And then I got a blue van, and from there I went with the car that I have now, which is red. But
Nice.
red, which they say don't get red, because they say if you get a red car, you get more speeding tickets. If you're a speeder.
I've heard that.
Yeah, but in basics, because red is more noticeable. It's more of a look at me car, whereas gray, white, or black are more blend in, that kind of thing. That you can get away with slightly more. If there's 3 cars speeding, the red one's going to get pulled over.
Good tip.
Yeah, I have lots of ways of how, if there's 3 cars involved, which one gets the ticket. There's a reason why a lot of times, but that's a different story. Anyway, but so yeah, so you're looking for, what qualities are you looking for, which allows the universe to find it in any way, and then it can show up. But yeah, so that's kind of how I chose and then you also have to look at the information, but that's a different story too. But yeah, you're looking for the energies of what you're looking for, and then once you perceive the energy of what it is, of all the things that you're looking for together, what might that look like?
Mm-hmm.
With what I just described, you're pretty sure it's not a 2-seater. Oh, I also like to be tall. I don't like to be like the low to the road cars, because I like to be able to sit up high so I can see. So it gives me this illusion. I mean, like if you're in a semi, you're like really tall.
Yeah.
But so,
Yeah.
so literally I've practically described a high-powered SUV.
Nice, without being too specific about the high
Yeah,
powered.
without being too specific of what I was looking for. It also could be, well, no, it could be a sedan, I suppose, but it also could be a van.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of those mom vans are deceptive. They've got a lot of power packed in them, and they have a lot of storage, which an SUV doesn't have that. But at this point in my life, I no longer was concerned about being able to fit all the kids in the car or whatever. So that wasn't really in my thing with the car. But yeah, so basically when you're pulling energy, you're just gathering the energies of whether you're looking for a job, a car, a person, like you could be looking for a partner, for business, or even looking for more friends in your life. It could be you're looking for money. It could be you're looking for client. You could be looking for anything. It's just looking for what would you like to have show up, and those are the energies you ask for.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we don't acknowledge what we're asking for, or we don't acknowledge that we're not asking.
Oh.
I mean,
Can you talk a little bit more about that? Acknowledge what we're asking for versus when we're not asking?
well, if you're not asking and if you're not choosing, the universe just has to keep throwing random stuff at you to try to figure out what it is you want. Or you become at the effect of what everyone around you is asking for.
Ah,
because you're not asking for what you would like. You're just like going along with what Joe wants, or name key person here.
hmm.
So that's just kind of that if you're not asking, you're just getting what everyone else is asking for, or what those around you, you're not getting what you're asking for.
Hmm.
And if what's showing up in your life isn't what you think you're asking for, you maybe need to look at what you're asking for and how are you saying it.
Ah, okay. Can you talk a little bit more? How would you say something?
Well, um I'm trying to think of okay, there's a specific story that was like literally like that is not what I meant, but but I actually did get a couple of things exactly that, like, during all those years when I was driving that blue van, and everybody grown-ups, I mean, friends, acquaintances would say, so when are you going to get a new car, Dawn? Because my husband had gotten one, we'd gotten one. And I was kind of like, well, it's not my turn yet. And I said, and sometimes I don't know exactly what I'm looking for. And it's kind of a strange question to have people ask, is like, when are you going to get a new car? It's kind of like they're saying, well, your car's really a piece of crap. When are you going to? Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what they were saying when they were asking. So, and at some point, I just started saying, well, as soon as I find someone who wants to pay for it.
Ah,
So that's
interesting.
what I just started saying. And then I suppose it was maybe 2 or 3 years after that. Maybe it's like only 2 years. It wasn't that long after that, but it was a while, but not the next day. But my father-in-law said to my husband, I think it's time we buy Dawn a new car. And
Wow.
and he bought me the car I'm currently driving.
Nice. How does it get any better than that?
Yeah. So I
Wow.
literally did get exactly what I asked for. And yeah, so
Ooh.
yeah, and at that point, I mean, my father-in-law had never bought me a car. And I think even at the point prior to that, I mean, they had contributed to getting a car for my husband. And they were indirect contributions, and indirect and direct, I think, both with getting the cars for my grandkids, for their grandkids, my children, their grandkids. But yeah, this was the first time when, generally speaking, they didn't say, hey, we want to put money towards a car for you guys. That wasn't what they did. So this was, yeah, the first time. And he didn't just contribute to the car, he bought the whole car.
Nice.
it was it
Wow.
was it was very cool. um,
That is like really cool. Wow.
yeah,
Wow. Really cool way for things to show up. Nice.
it was. And what was really nice was it also gave me permission to go out and let what I was asking for show up without having to panic and worry about what it was going to cost me.
Ah, that's interesting too. Yeah. I guess that's another component to it that
Yeah,
sometimes we do add the panic and worry, which kind of can stifle what will
yeah,
show
because
up or what can show up.
yeah, because if what you want is going to be that $500 a month payment, you can only afford 300. It really makes you. I mean, and some people really don't care what their car looks like, or what their car. I mean, a lot of people don't have a lot of attachment to their car. But there are times where I look at it and I just wonder, like, what would make you buy a car like that? It's just like, what, I mean, I'm sure everyone's done that. Is that there's some cars that you look at them and you know why they bought it. And there's other ones that you look at and you just go, huh. Of course, I also look at some cars and wonder is what would make somebody make a car like that? Or what would make somebody paint a car that color? That kind of thing. Just weird stuff, so interesting. But you don't
Yeah.
always know what that. But and then I think it was probably and then there are people who have the attitude of, you are what you drive.
There can be that too. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're stuck in that, that's very much an image thing. If you have this specific image, then driving a car that doesn't match that image could be quite offensive. I think that statement was said to me when I was driving that blue van in its later years. I'm like, but,
That is too funny.
but yeah, so there is
And
that.
so one of the things, Don, you've said about energy pulls too, is that sometimes we tend to use our minds to think the pull. What, and
Yeah.
that is not necessarily an energy pull. Can you talk a little bit more
Yeah.
about
Yes, I
that?
have participated participated in energy pulls with other facilitators. I've done a lot of them with other facilitators, and there are facilitators who use energy pulls a lot, and they talk about them a lot because they work. They're wonderful. They're an amazing tool to bring anything into your life. And I've used them accidentally, like with the father-in-law statement where I thought I was just being clever. And I've used them intentionally, and sometimes it just works, and then there's other times when I'm sitting there doing an energy pull, and there's just something off about it, and it's that, like, that little voice in your head that says that I'm doing it wrong.
Interesting.
And I did notice that sometimes when I was and this might be the key word there, I was trying to use energy pulls the way people talked about using them, that it didn't seem to be bringing me the results that they were getting. So of course I was doing it wrong. um, Although I don't know that I ever really thought it that way. They just, because they didn't seem as effective, I just didn't utilize them as much. And I was aware that I didn't utilize them. I'm like, "Oh, why don't I?" So then I started, and it was fairly recently, and I've been doing access for quite a while, and I've been a facilitator for quite a while. So you think I would get this, and they do talk about in access, the mind is a terrible thing, waste it. They are not talking about your brain. You need your brain to live. Your body can't survive without it. Don't waste your brain. But the mind has a different function. Its purpose is judgment, and it can only work with what it knows or has heard before, or that kind of thing. So, but basically, the mind is more about controlling. The mind is what we use to control things. The mind is really handy if you're doing a linear task like math, but knowing is so much faster than the mind and so much quicker than the mind. And the energy pulls actually work with our inner knowing.
Interesting. I've never heard it put that way.
And me neither. That's the first time I've ever said it too. So we'll just go with that. But the mind, because the mind is the lower harmonic of knowing.
Hmm.
So when we think we don't know, we tend to use our mind.
Right. Yeah.
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 But there are times where thinking is helpful. This isn't to say thinking is always bad, although there is that saying that if you're thinking, you're stinking. That's not an
Yeah.
act.
For that too.
That's not an access thing. I heard that actually from a school teacher, in a network marketing group, but that was the first place that I heard it. But that is, that thing is like, and he was talking about when you know that you know that you know that the things that you knowing is stronger than thinking. Anyway, but when you go to use an energy pull, you have to literally send your mind away. Because if your mind is involved, you're trying to control it. And if you're trying to control it, you're trying to control the universe.
Mm.
And who has the ability to control everyone and everything in the universe? The only thing you can absolutely control is yourself.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. So, and basically, so you can't think and energy, well, energy isn't thinking. Which is why if you're on a mind trip, you're not really being aware of the energy. You're taking an awareness and turning it into a conclusion, which I'm really good at. I can do. I'm not as. I don't do it as solidly as, but I used to be. I mean, I could pick up an awareness and I could whip it into a conclusion way before it even got to me.
I'm sure you're not the only one who does that, Dawn.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people with that skill, and we've been highly trained in that skill, is to turn everything in for an answer. But we're not really looking with the thing with the energy is if you can perceive the energy is underneath thinking.
Ooh.
It's underneath it, and thinking. Well, and thinking can misinterpret it because thinking engages with your point of view.
It does. Yes.
So whereas the energy is the same no matter where it is, but your point of view determines how you interpret it.
Mm.
So there is that too. But so if you're actually relaxed enough to perceive the energy of what you're looking for, so that's the other thing is if your mind is engaged, you're not relaxed. For me, if I'm totally relaxing, my mind takes on what I call a floaty thing. It's where like thoughts wander through, but they don't take root. If they start to take root, then your mind is engaging.
I like that visual.
That yeah, because awareness is fleeting and it can change on a dime. Which and you know, thoughts can change that fast too. That because if you're following the energy, the thought changes as the energy moves and it swirls and it goes. But basically, because when someone's walking you through, it's like when someone walks you through meditation.
Yeah.
uh, an energy pull has that similar quality to it, and they'll start with, you know, relax, 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 and then they'll start telling you to get, you know, perceive, you know, gather up the energies, or you know, whatever you're, but they start walking you through the steps of how they do an energy pull. And everybody does it slightly different. There's no two pulls that are ever the same, because the energy is always different, because the people are different, and they're even different one minute to the next even. But so as they're walking you through how they do it, that's where my mind is like, okay, so like A meets B meets C meets D. So I'm doing this very linear thinking process. So when I would, so what I came to realize recently is that I was doing the energy pulls with my mind. I was literally thinking pulls, not energy pulls. And thinking pulls really don't pull, because thinking pulls have that quality of, you know, how when someone's trying to get you to do something and they're trying to control you and you know it? That's what a thinking pull
Yeah.
does. That's a thinking pull.
A thinking pull. Energy pulls versus thinking pulls.
Yeah. So energy pulls are like magic. They work, things show up. Energy pulls are literally magic at work, but it's because it's the energy of it. Whereas thinking pulls are trying to control it and manipulate it to look exactly the way you want it.
Which,
And so yeah, so they require a little more work.
Yeah.
And they kind of feel like work, actually.
Interesting. Energy pulls can feel like work.
I've never had, no, energy pulls aren't work.
Oh, you mean thinking pulls? Oh, yeah.
Because I was having that was kind of when I was like, oh, because I had this idea in my head. So point of view, interesting point of view. But so I had this point of view that to do an energy pull, first off, I had to sit down and take time to do it. I couldn't do it while I drove. Why not? Oh, that whole shut your eyes thing, because if you close your eyes is one of the steps. You can't do that and drive. Because I had this idea that I had to like take, and it is nice if you do take time and space to relax, because it's actually really good for you in, you know, whatever reason. But because I had decided they were work, because my mind was working so hard. So I had to find the time, and then I had to sit down and I had to do it. I turned it into work, which is a mind game. And then my mind had to walk through it all and figure and it was more of a mental exercise, and so kind of what Dane calls, or maybe it's somebody calls it mental masturbation, but it's almost like it was a mental exercise more than an energetic one. Because after an energy pull, I think you'll feel energized.
That's been my experience, more relaxed, more communing with your body to different way of being.
More in touch, more in communion with the earth, more in touch with your environment, but relaxed, more energized. You feel more not focused, not focused like this, but more focused, more at peace with everything. That energy pulls actually have a really, I'm not sure what the right, you know, is it cathartic?
Might be the word.
Yeah. But they do so much more than just create. I mean, they contribute so much to you. But if you do them with your mind, if you're thinking, then they work. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't have the same year.
And it does not have the same result. But an energy pull also can be just as simple as asking
and receiving.
Yeah, as like as soon as I find someone who will pay for it. I mean, that wasn't asked. The universe listened.
That was
And
an actual question. Mhm.
and that's where that if what you're asked if what's showing up doesn't match what you think you're asking for, you might want to pay attention to the words you're using.
Yes, yes. And I like what you said. Are you asking for you? You asking for someone else?
Yeah.
Ask more questions about your ask.
Yeah. Are you including you in your ask?
Yeah, including you.
Or
Mhm.
yeah, or if you think you're asking for this, you're asking for money, but all you talk about is lack. What are you asking for?
What are you really asking for? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Cool. A lot of different things to it. Nice. This was a great conversation, Dawn. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I just kind of went blank. So we'll just say that must be it.
That must be it for now. So thank you everyone for listening. Like I said, if you can find and you can do energy pulls in a foundation class. Gosh, access consciousness facilitators do them all over, or just whenever. Like Dawn said, you don't have to be sitting down, relaxed, closing your eyes in a meditation to do it. It can be pretty much anywhere, any time of day, whenever you get the ping to pull.
Like most of the tools in Access, play with it.
Yes. Play with
Play.
it.
The more you play and the more you play with it, the better it works.
Yeah. 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 The more fun it is, the more lightness you have. Yeah. Just see. Just ask. I wonder what are the infinite possibilities? What else can show up?
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. See you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Dawn. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching, for listening, and see you next time. Ciao.
Yep. Enjoy. Wrong button again. Someday I'm going to learn how to use my buttons.
Zoom and fun.